Hey, we are back with another episode of Vintage Club Conversations. Today, on these conversations, we are joined by Mahesh Natarajan, CRO of Congruent Solutions, someone who knows a lot about building predictable growth in unpredictable industries, which is very, very rare.
Mahesh Natarajan is the Chief Revenue Officer at Congruent Solutions, a global leader in retirement plan administration technology and services. What makes Mahesh's perspective so unique is the vantage point of a CRO working at the intersection of trust, technology, and transformation. He's seen firsthand how AI is reshaping the way revenue teams operate, especially in industries where accuracy and compliance are non negotiable.
Welcome to Vintage Club Conversations, Mahesh.
I'm pleasure to be here and I'm looking forward to this fun chat.
Great. Mahesh, you have led revenue growth across industries where complexity is the norm. I'm sure you know each of your deal is very different and very complex. From managing global client portfolio to leading teams that operate under intense regulatory scrutiny. Looking back, what specific experiences or turning points have most shaped your philosophy as a CRO?
Hmm, that's an interesting question. So here is how I think about it, right? In my past, I was in the regulated industry but selling services. In my current job, I'm in regulated industry selling a product, which is a SaaS product, very similar to SiftHub in the retirement space. However, one thing that's been common across whether you sell services or product is simple, right? The sales is simply a reflection of the entire organization, whether it is pre-sales or marketing, product, and everything comes together, including HR, because people are the ambassadors of the organization, right? So to me, that is the number one philosophy I have carried from my 25 years in doing consultative sales in a large organization to Congruent, where smaller organization, but we are very focused on one industry selling SaaS. So that's the first philosophy. I think the second one I think about it, right, is no matter which company you are in, large, small, clients expect consistency from everybody they talk to in a company. Not just consistency, they also want predictability in what we say and what we deliver. So, we call it as bid versus did. If we bid to do something, did we really do it? That has been consistent in whether you're regulated or non-regulated industry. And as a CRO, right, you are not just selling and walking away from Summit. Because at the end of the day, what you sell, how they experience it, and how they use it, all of this collectively becomes the feedback loop to whether they recommend you or they buy more from you. And this is something I often talk internally to an organization saying, everybody is involved in sales, right? Sales is not a bad word. Everybody is selling to somebody on something. When you are doing a demo, you're selling. When you are delivering something, if you delight the client, you have indirectly sold them. And if all of those happens, they come back to the sales and say, hey, let's talk about 2026. So broadly, those are the three I would put as experiences. Sales is the face for the entire organization, right? So everybody is selling. And two, consistently messaging, and not just messaging, right? Everybody needs to truly imbibe what is that the organization provides as a value to the client. And often that is difficult as companies grow. And there are different ways we can solve for it, and which we can talk more in this session. But I'll stop there, right? I think that's kind of the philosophy or experiences. I don't think there is any one turning point, but as you know, right, all of these are things you accumulate over a period of time and you start synthesizing them to three or four nuggets.
Yeah, totally. I'm going to steal your bid versus did
Go for it.
theme here. I'm sure you know this is the first time I've heard this, and I'm definitely going to steal this in my conversations. And
Go for
also, you mentioned a very interesting point around
it.
consistent messaging. I think
Yeah,
that's very critical
yeah,
for
right.
the entire company, that you're talking the same language and the
Yeah,
language which relates to the customer and not
yeah,
what relates to your people, right?
right.
For that, how do you align sales, pre-sales, and delivery to make growth predictable in
Yeah.
such a complex environment? And how does this consistent messaging weaves into this entire process?
It takes work, right? I mean, it's not easy, but it has to be done. Again, what I've found to be valuable is this: everybody needs to know what is that at a strategy level, right? What are we trying to do accomplish in the industry, and how are we helping the clients? So it starts with laying down what are we trying to do, who are we trying to help. But where it breaks down, and which is where I think we'll talk more about products like SiftHub is really helping. Where it breaks down is in the heat of the moment, or in people are always trying to create new products, new services, and there is just so much that happens. It is very difficult to keep up with consistently putting out nuggets of information. And I relate this to people who do it really well. Think about either politicians or even governments. To the most extent, they do well because they have a spokesperson and they give them a script. So to a large extent, right, unless there are one or two presidents who go off the script, say what they want to, but to the most extent, people stick to a script, and it helps, right? It helps the cabinet stay on point. It helps the spokesperson say the same thing. Their party says the same thing, and that usually lacks in any corporate environment. Especially in smaller startups, it's very difficult because we are running every day, and I think that is where I believe we've been able to make a dent at that. In fact, with SiftHub, where it is just not about replying to an RFP or creating a set of narratives, but really think of it as the knowledge base for the organization to put things in and take things out. Right? That's how we fashioned it. And it helps because now everybody can, if somebody says, for example, as a client asks a question, and if somebody queries SiftHub, we get the same answer, and I will say the same thing my sales team will say, my product team will say, my marketing team will say, my CEO will say. In fact, that was a great example, right? Recently, my CEO and I visited a senior client, right? She was a CXO of another firm. And I was introduced to her about a month ago when I visited her. This was the first intro meeting, and she literally interviewed me, right? Even before she interviewed me to make sure I'm genuine and I can add value. Part of that was a lot of questions about my organization, our culture, how do we deliver work, what do we do, what happens when things go bad, and because there will be bumps. And funnily enough, about a month or so later, I introduced my CEO to her, saying, "Hey, he's here in town, let's meet." And she literally asked the same question she asked me in sort of my introduction meeting. And thankfully, usually what it takes is a lot of prep work for CEOs to say the same thing that I say, and then on the other side, my team to say it. Because we had figured this out, this whole process of messaging, and all we had to do was put the questions in SwiftUp, get the answers. Because I had done that work, I told him this is what she's going to likely ask, and here are the answers. To the most extent, right, he didn't want to just go off the script, but at the same time, genuinely, he echoed similar things, and it goes a long way, right? Because now instantaneously, she built trust with us, saying, "Yeah, I'm hearing consistently. Maybe I can trust this team," and that led to us going to the next step in the process with them. So long answer, but it's really helping create customer delight in being consistent with that messaging and delivering to what we say.
That's music to my ears, Mahesh. I mean, of course, this is something I know what the product does, how SwiftHub helps, but hearing it directly from the CRO and the impact on the leadership is music to my ears. Thank you so much for that, and I think even SwiftHub team needs to learn from their customers and
Yeah,
start using it the product the way customers are also using it, because there are always new ways every
yeah,
user find on using different products, right? Not just SwiftHub, any product you see, there will
yeah,
be like tons of ways users are using the product,
correct.
and you never know what kind of use cases you can actually solve with a platform.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, with AI, the potential is endless now, right? But that's what we're
Yeah,
realizing. Yeah, Yeah.
Yeah, totally. No, AI is the only thing people are talking about, right? Literally,
Right.
everyone is talking about. But
Yeah.
in industries like yours,
Mm.
like financial services and retirement,
Yeah.
where compliance and accuracy are non-negotiable,
Hmm.
the way you adopt AI looks very different and maybe more complex, right?
Yeah.
So, from your vantage point, where have you seen the most practical,
Yeah.
immediate wins from AI at Congruent?
Hmm.
Maybe not just in your organization in
Yeah.
revenue or, but also what you're hearing from your customers.
Sure. I think we can dive into this in a couple of ways, right? So think about Congruent is creating a SaaS platform, and which means there are AI embedded in how we build it, how we test it, and maintain it. So let's leave that part for a second. But there are two other ways I would say we can explore this topic a little bit, right? One, end of the day, our clients, in my case, the regulated industry in the retirement services, they're also selling like you and I do, right? They're selling their plans and retirement products to people. So there is a CRO function. It's called sales and distribution within those organizations. And they face the same challenge that we do, right? In responding to an RFP or being consistent in messaging what's the value proposition they give, and making sure their sales, marketing, distribution, and all of them have a single place from where they can take information and communicate with the clients. So that's the first part of it, right? Is clearly AI can enable sales not just for companies like Congruent, but also our clients are already playing around with it, whether they use Salesforce or potentially products like SiftHub in their sales organizations. So that's the first one. The second one, because of a regulated industry, you cannot really make the machine is sort of probabilistic to a most extent, right? It's still not deterministic when it comes to accuracy, and we cannot let the machine make independent decisions. And so when we look at the entire landscape, whether within Congruent or within our client landscape, right, I'm not going to let the machine make a pricing and go at it, right? Pricing is something, yes, the machine will say, here are the four different clients where you have priced it, and now I have to make a human judgment. You call it human in the loop. That's the known thing. But if you take that away, where you don't need deterministic outputs, but you're good enough with the probabilistic with some human interventions, I think there are a lot of, I would say, mundane things that are invisible to any user. Right. I'll give two examples within my world, and then maybe one in my world, one in our client's world. Anywhere there is a need to fill a piece of paper today or read a piece of paper, that is where significant human effort goes in today. As an example, right? We typically think of sending RFPs where we have to respond to an RFP. That's a known use case. Let's extend that, right? So we sent an RFP. The client likes our solution. Now the client is saying, I want to onboard you. And in a regulated industry, onboarding either a SiftHub or a Congruent SaaS is not easy because they have to go through security clearance, SOC audits, and a set of enterprise, I would say, questionnaires, which usually runs into like 500 to 600 questions. That's what we go through because they can't take a risk with a small product vendor, and filling these 700 pages or 700 questions is never easy. And it used to be a laborious work because we circulate spreadsheets to multiple departments: IT, security, product, delivery, risk management, legal. All of these people start putting together a massive spreadsheet which goes around for weeks, and eventually we get a response. Now we have seen that weeks go into days because now we have AI helping us. It's just not RFP, it's not sales, it's continuum, right? Going from sales to now we are almost engaging with the client, right? This is the starting part of the client engagement. That's one example of what we are going through, right? These use cases are emerging every day as we think about it. And if I flip that to our own clients, they have the same onboarding, right? Yes, they sell with Salesforce. Salesforce has some good AI capabilities. Once they sell, handing off from sales to the team that is going to execute is often via emails, spreadsheets, documents. And that is where we are starting to see. In fact, we built our own onboarding solution for our clients to onboard plans, as an example, right? Which is usually going through tons of PDF documents to extract information, set up the plan. In this case, it's a retirement plan, and which usually has thousands of parameters to set up. But we let AI do the first part of the job. And then there's always a human to review what AI has done as a setup before they approve it. This is where significant work is happening, right? While it's just not about sales, but it's enabling sales and it's also enabling post sale, I would say, activities, either in our own case or in the case of clients. So it's really looking at these invisible problems, which could be boring, mundane, nobody looks at it, because people get excited about sexy AI use cases to say, oh, here is a chatbot. Important. I'm not denying the importance of those things. But if people start to dig into the middle and the back office processes of every client, sales or pre sales or post sale, I think there's a ton of opportunities that we see.
Yeah, I'm interesting you brought up the delivery side of the things, because one of the biggest pain points when you close a deal, of course, you
Mhm.
celebrate when you close a deal, but the biggest worry as a sales leader you have is, will
Yeah.
this deal be executed well, right? I mean, will the customer sign up with us again in 2026, again in 2027, and so on?
Right.
And the entire handover process from sales to delivery or account management today
Yeah.
is very, very broken. Like
Correct.
today itself, I was talking to a delivery head of a pretty big company,
Hmm.
and they were like, some, like when it comes to handover,
Yeah.
some details, nuances are in conversation, some nuances are on Salesforce, some
Yeah.
nuances are, created in a SharePoint folder. And it's, this is where, AI can actually help a lot,
Yeah.
where it's important that you don't miss the nuances. It's easy
Correct.
to create a document, but how do you create an accurate document? How do you create a comprehensive document so that the
Mhm.
account manager or the delivery person is not doing the discovery all over again? Because if you're doing discovery all over again, then you are delaying your delivery
Yeah.
timeline, and in a lot of places the
Mhm.
revenue is realized after the delivery is done,
Correct.
right? So how do you actually shrink that cycle of revenue
Yeah.
realization also becomes important.
In fact, we found other use cases we are starting to now play around, right? Especially with SiftHub. Let's say we sell, we start onboarding the client, we start delivering. Obviously, governance comes in.
Yeah.
And this is where you need to know your client and you need to know what you're delivering for them. And then you have to figure out what else they are doing. How do you collect all of this intelligence in one place so that when I'm doing a quarterly review with them, I have a one pager that is ready? Now, all the private information about this client which who work with us, I can't put it in a public domain. That stays within my domain.
Right.
But what we're able to now do is stitch that private information that's within Congruent, and then I can go to the public domain to see what they have and bring it together to a narrative where I have it in front of me in a minute, because I can go to SiftHub and say, hey, I'm meeting this client, create a narrative, figure out what they're doing in the
Yeah.
market, and this product knows what we do because we have already uploaded information on what we do with them. I'm done in like 2 minutes. I have a narrative which otherwise would have taken a bunch of emails, a phone call to ask people around what's going on projects, what's the status, and what are they up to. It's just, as I said, right? It's just endless possibilities. So I don't see this as just a CR sales where AI is creating impact, or specifically SiftUp. And I see that for myself, and I see that for CROs of my own clients, because they go through the same. It doesn't matter which business you are the CRO,
Yeah.
you have to make sure the clients are happy on what you sold, because that just feeds the perpetual machine.
Yeah, yeah, you definitely need a lot of evangelism from your customers these days, with every category becoming so
Yeah.
competitive. You can't just, be a cheaper option or just with more features. You need
Right.
a lot of evangelism from your customers.
Absolutely.
So you brought an important point of human in the loop.
Hmm.
Do you think we have moved from a world where the reviews were done by human, or we
Yeah.
used to call it human in the loop, and now we are in the mode of expert in the loop? Like earlier, because the reviews were so, I would say, high level,
Yeah.
but now AI is already giving you a very detailed, let's say, a document or a
Hmm.
narrative or a comprehensive document,
Right.
You really need expert in the loop to verify that and to add to it if anything is missing. How do you think about that within your team also?
I see two patterns, right? If I kind of think about it, one pattern is, as you said, experts in the loop, because we created our RFP response, even the executive narrative is generated. Now the expert is really bringing in some insights which will never be in a system or a machine, right? I think that's an expert in the loop. But that is assuming there is good data that has gone in for the AI engine to create a good enough output. Then the expert can add a few, embellish it, right? I think that's how I would put it. But when the data is not good enough, obviously AI can only do a decent job at it, which is where I still see the human in the loop. It's not gone away. I think I mean, all of this is what, 6 months, a year max that we have been at this. So I would expect the data to get better and better, and you will see it's like any other processes, right? With or without machine, over a period of time, people go from being doing things to becoming experts in whatever they do, reviews. I think there will be a graduation, maturation process for people as the machine takes over a lot of things that they were doing on the low maturity level, and elevate it and let them be more experts. I think that's how I see this happening. But I don't think we are yet there where we completely trust the machines to be everything and then we become an expert. And it again, it's really a, I would say, a factor of how good data and how good processes we have in feeding the AI engine, whatever that AI engine is, whether it's generative or not. I think that's how I see it.
No, I totally agree, in some part of this conversation. But I think it has definitely helped everyone move up the value chain. And as you said, with more and more people using it, it is going to just improve
Yeah.
from here. But definitely it is helping all of us move up the value chain now.
Absolutely. I mean, it frees up so much effort, right? So you can
Yeah.
really think, and you can now start to, I would say, ideate in some sense, because you have all of this power of AI. And I think this is something I'm, very particular about, right? You cannot outsource your thinking to AI, but you can outsource, I would say, augmenting your thinking to AI.
Yeah.
But you still need to have the seed thought and something, right? It's just not about prompt, right? Prompt is easy, but you need to have an idea and you need to know the industry, connect the dots, and then if you really seed that, then AI can do a good job. And I think, to your point, right, that's really expert level thinking. Now you're really putting ideas in your head and using AI to bounce off, right? What do you think, and does it make sense? Would this resonate, right? Use that as a sounding board, which otherwise you have to seek experts to do. Now you have somebody that you can do with AI.
Yeah, and the problem with some LLMs is they agree so much with you that you have to really tell them, be critical about this scenario and then respond. Otherwise, everything you read, you'll be like, oh, you're thinking in a perfect direction, but there are definitely a lot better ways of ideating and thinking about things.
Correct.
I think LLMs are also evolving and humans will also evolve in learning how to use them.
Yeah, yesterday or day before, I saw something from a analyst firm, HFS, right, where I think they had said, and I've always believed in this, right? You cannot outsource thinking, and second, even within the existing employee base, I think there used to be this digital divide, if you remember the term called digital divide. Now we're starting to see the AI divide, because people who can use AI, even within my own sales team, think about it, right? There is a spectrum of people. Some are always there on SiftHub asking something and doing something with it, and then others who rarely use it. And over a period of time, this is going to create a significant, I would say, vision in between people who use AI to do a much more effective job versus others who are going to fall behind. And in fact, people who embrace it are going to do more and do well in their life, and others who are going to fall behind in every industry, not just mine. I think that's the case for every industry, and I think we see that happening every day, right? Whether it's marketing, whether it's sales, whether it's product. And to your point, right, how do I elevate my expertise using AI without outsourcing the critical thinking.
Yeah, totally. With that, Mahesh, so as you said, two
Yeah.
sales people will be at a different adoption level of
Mhm.
AI. Now, both of them are talking to different customers.
Yeah.
Do you think the client expectations are shifting because now they also know, of course, like they
Right.
use AI, they know their vendors or their partners are using AI.
Yeah.
Do you think they also perceive people or they expect people to really respond much faster to them and have much more knowledge about their industry in general before they are going on the call with the customer? And how do you see these,
Mhm.
the difference in maybe closing rate or winning deals when it comes to salespeople who are adopting AI versus those who are not?
I don't have a lot of data to support, right? As our adoption is still in the, I think in about 6 months to a year, I may have data to exactly give you a data based answer. But I'll give you, uh, I don't even want to call it a hunch, right? I'll give you experiential information, right? There are two parts to you ask, right? One, are the clients expecting us to respond faster? Absolutely. I think, that's a given because they're moving fast because of AI. They're expecting us to move fast, not just responding to a query, right? Even responding to adding a feature to a product. They're like, if OpenAI puts something every week, there is something, what takes you a month? I think that's often the question. So that's the first part of it. But the second part of it are people who are using AI able to close and convert faster. I think so, right? I think I would, rather than saying close, convert faster with data, I would say they're able to have a better conversation with the client in eliciting more about the client versus worried about preparing and digging deep into what we do, what our product does, because that's all now served in a platter. So you're able to now shift the focus to we versus tell me more what problem you're solving. So they're able to have more quality conversations. And I'm not only hopeful, I'm confident it will lead to better outcomes, but I don't have data now to come back and say, here is the data to support it, but I don't see why not. Because the more quality conversations you have, you're building trust and you are empathetic with the client. And now that should lead to better outcomes.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you mentioned trust. I think, especially in your industry, trust is currency, right? And when every conversation is layered with
Yeah.
compliance rules, like literally, I'm sure, every of your conversation
Yeah.
at least have a compliance section in
Hmm.
it. Building that trust takes even more effort, right? Like human effort. So if you can have AI do the rest of the things, then your sales teams can actually spend that time in
Yeah.
building trust with the customers.
Correct. Absolutely.
Great. No, these are very good insights. And it feels just like yesterday, that all of us have started using AI. But it's
Yeah.
hard to believe we are already in the last quarter of 2025. As you look ahead, Mahesh, what's exciting you most about the evolution of tech and AI? Is it about new possibilities in client engagement,
Mhm.
efficiency, scaling revenue growth, or do
Yeah.
more of what you're already doing? And what keeps up you at night?
So let me answer the what keeps me up at night, and then I'll come back to what excites me, right? What keeps me up at night is the speed at which everything is changing, right? Our industry, our product, competitors, and our own clients' industry. So the speed at which they're moving and that industry is evolving, and how do you really keep up with it? Not just from sales, right? I think across the board, how do you really keep up and continue to win? I think we're fortunate, right? We are growing in significant growth. I think last year we are about 40% growth. This year will be close to 50. And so that's never enough, right? Because the industry is changing so fast and it's just not about growth, but how do you really keep up? That's the first thing that always worries me. In fact, a friend of mine, posted yesterday or day before on LinkedIn that he has been tinkering with some AI for many months on finally figured it out. And then he says Facebook dropped refrag or something like that, which I have no idea the depth of the technology. He said it just everything he did for many months vanished in a single day when Facebook came up with it. And then I asked him, "Tell me, Yoda, what do we do?" Because all of us are in the same boat. And he said, "Look, you just have to keep at it because you can't just give up." And so that's the first part. What keeps me up night is the pace of change just only exponentially is increasing. But what is exciting is also equally that, right? Because there is just so many things we can do, but there is only 24 hours in a day for me, for my team, my product team, my marketing team. And how do you really prioritize these things to really create an impact? Because for me, this job I took after 25 years in a large firm was really about what purpose can I, be aligned with in the next final phase of my professional life. And my company has a similar philosophy, right? How do you get ready? It's really getting ready for tomorrow, not just for us, but for our clients to be ready tomorrow. And our clients end up helping millions of Americans and Canadians for retirement readiness. So that's a purpose that always excites us and excites me. And now, to achieve that, how fast can we move? What can we do tomorrow in product with AI? How can I improve pre-sales? How can I improve sales with SiftHub? Right? All of these are things that really excites me. Right? I mentioned a few use cases, and we are already thinking about next year if we have to grow 50%. We can't add another 50% of staff to all of these organizations, right? Sales cannot add 50% staff. Pre-sales cannot add 50%. Right? We may be able to add 10% of staff, but still show the growth. And how do I apply any type of AI, whether it's with SiftHub or within our own product and or the CRM tools we use, which is kind of what is really exciting in getting the whole organization to embrace it, right? Not just me getting excited about it. And how do we get, even if I get 80% of the people there, I think the other 20 wouldn't matter because if the 80 will carry us forward. So that's what is exciting for me in the business.
No, what I take from this is do more with same. I wouldn't say less necessarily, but do more with same is going to be, it's going to get stronger and stronger next year, I think. And yeah, I'm totally with you on, the entire Facebook story. You
Yeah,
cannot keep waiting. You cannot keep waiting for AI to kind of become stable,
yeah,
or the grow, like the changes to become slow. It's not going to happen anytime soon. So
yeah,
you have to start your journey, and you have to just figure out while you're in that journey on what's right for you and what should change for you.
exactly. Because every day there is somebody dropping a new product. And I think yesterday or day before I saw AWS drop something called Quick Suite, I think. I don't know if you noticed that one. So that's going to cause some buzz, especially in the space we are in. So I think it's just how do you keep up with it and keep pace, right? You got to keep at it every day.
Yeah, yeah, totally. From vibe coding to vibe selling.
Exactly.
Well, I think our listeners are going to have a lot of takeaways from this conversation, Mahesh. Tons of amazing insights, especially, around trust and coming from retirement and traditional industry as well. Thank you for those insights.
I loved it.
We are going to set aside work for a moment and get to
Sure.
know more about you as a person.
Hmm.
The questions will be quick and to the point. Are you
Yep.
ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Coffee is practically fuel in the CRO world, right?
Yeah.
Are you a strong filter coffee person or more of a Starbucks latte person now?
I would say filter coffee, preferably black coffee, not even cream. I'm a vegan,
Okay,
so black coffee.
interesting. If you weren't building revenue engine, if you were not a CRO, what career path you would have chosen?
Wow. So, what I would have chosen is to be a fighter pilot.
Oh,
But
wow.
there are some medical reasons why I couldn't do that. So, what I would love to choose after my CRO role 10 years from now is to go to a culinary school, a vegan culinary school, get trained, and maybe a part time chef somewhere.
That is very, very interesting. I'm definitely going to come and, have lunch or dinner at your restaurant.
You're welcome. Yeah. It may not be even be a restaurant by then, right? It could be just invite 10 people home and do it twice a week or something. There are different ways you can distribute your culinary skills, but we'll see.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What's one thing you have totally changed your mind about in the last year? It could be a big thing or a small thing.
About fear, right? I think there are a lot of insecurities, fears, and I would even say can I really do the job, right? So I would say that fear has, I would say, gone for a variety of reasons. It could be partly mentoring, partly me saying that, look, anything can be done. I don't need to walk into something tentative. I would say there's a big shift in that in the last 1 year. And some of that is also based on my personal life, which there was a lot of challenges I had to go through with a few couple of my younger sister and my dad passed away within a year. And that brings a perspective saying, you cannot live in fear about your job or your sales or others, right? Go put your best foot forward, because who knows, I may not be around tomorrow. And I think that brings a perspective of, look, I'm no more, I'm fearless when it comes to doing my job going forward.
That's a very touching thing.
Thank you.
What's the most memorable or unusual place you have ever closed a deal?
Most memorable place. I mean, I have to rewind this history for many years, right? Not just in the last year and a half since my company.
Anytime.
Um, I would say it's in a parking lot. Yeah, there are at least once, maybe twice, in a parking lot where you meet somebody and, they're about to leave home. I'm about to leave home. And it's a Friday, or I think that's what my recollection is, where they're under pressure to do something Monday morning. They don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with this. This has been pending for many, many months in some cases. And sometimes it's a matter of small pennies here and there. And I think that's to me is memorable, right? Sitting down in a parking lot in a car and thrashing out the numbers and sending out a spreadsheet to everybody saying, here is the pricing, done, agreed, and closing a deal.
Interesting. I think I should start going to parking lots a lot more.
Yeah, because people leave, right? Everybody leaves, especially in my prior job, when I go to clients, I don't go in for a meeting and leave, right? I'm sitting there all day either in their cafeteria, and I'm there with people meeting them, and sometimes, and I'm walking out with them as I'm driving out of the parking lot. They're driving home at 5, 6, whatever the time, and you're really having quality time walking out of the building with them all the way to the parking lot. Usually it takes 5 to 10 minutes depending on where they are, where you are parked, and that 10 minutes quality time. And if they have something to be done, I want something to be closed, that's the time. Because on a Friday, they don't want this hanging over the weekend. They want to close it, I want to close it,
Yeah.
and there's no better place to do it than a parking lot.
Last one. If AI could automate one part of your personal life, what would you happily hand over?
Personal life.
Grocery shopping to planning vacations, anything.
I have to think. Yeah, I love shopping grocery because I don't want that ever outsource, because I want to go aisle by aisle. It adds to my counts for the steps, and I can just pick up some random things from a shelf. Being a chef, I have to do that. Um, I would say if there is something AI could do, it can clean up all the mess I create in my desk, because there is just papers all over the place. If there is a magic wand that AI could do, that's what I would wish. It could just clean up my desk, because I could see here, right? It's just paper, notebook all over the place. It's just a mess. So if it can
Just,
help me
just
create
wait for a robo to come soon.
AI based robo, right? I think that's what I would say. It just help me clear the mess.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, Mahesh. I think, a couple of things which I'm going to steal from this conversation. One is bid versus did, and, consistency in messaging.
Yeah.
Also, AI and regulatory industries, I think it's very important for humans to be in the loop for now. and yeah, do more with same. Pace of change is scary, but it's also very, very exciting.
Exciting.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your insights with the viewers.
As I said, I enjoyed it, loved it, and I think we'll keep chatting, and I'm sure we'll continue to benefit from the innovations you are doing on SiftHub within Congruent.
Oh, thank you so much for being a great partner.